The President.
Mr. President,
Madam.
how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That's all.
You've been holding lots of talks during your stay in Turkey, and today you had a tripartite meeting with the presidents of Turkey and Afghanistan. Could you tell me about how the meeting and the summit go, and what kind of decisions you've taken so far?
I think Turkey has been very helpful and very kind by hosting us. This is the fifth tripartite between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And as two countries of the Muslim Ummah and countries who are neighbors but had miscommunications among themselves, I think Turkey has helped help us both come together.
So what kind of decisions you've taken in terms of the fight against terrorism and further regional cooperation?
We've talked about regional cooperation in our intelligence agencies. We've accepted the fact that unless and until we cannot improve our economic situations in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, we are not going to be able to win this war against the cancer of terrorism.
Mr. President, let's get back to the flood. You had experienced almost the worst flood in your history, and Turkey has been trying to do its best, but still we see that some people cannot be reached today. How is the latest situation in Pakistan? And
First of all, I will take this opportunity to thank these common people of Turkey. Even small denominations, people contributed. That brings a lot of joy to my heart, that the people of Turkey, the love that they show, with small people giving even $1, that is the relationship which we actually have, that the people of Pakistan and the people of Turkey feel for each other. As you know, that this is a flood which obviously is some kind of freak phenomena of the environmental concerns that we all have been talking about throughout the world. And it's never happened in the history of the world. There's so much of rain and so much of water to accumulate in such short span. So no country in the world could have possibly been prepared for it. But the people of Pakistan are very resilient, and we managed to save everybody. We had minimum casualties, and we haven't had any real epidemic of any breakouts of disease as such. So I think it's been a great challenge to the nation, but the nation has stood up to it.
When the first floods hit Pakistan, most of the international community didn't react fastly, and it has been criticized to turn a blind eye to the situation in Pakistan. Do you agree with these criticisms?
No, I think the world usually reacts on the shock and effect sort of theory. If, like for instance, when we had the earthquake, the death toll was so much that the world woke up to it. In this case, like Ban Ki-moon described it, it's a slow tsunami. So obviously the effect was also slow. But I'm quite grateful to the world and very grateful to the people of the world for feeling for us and helping us out.
It also had a financial burden on Pakistan, and Pakistan has been economically trying to develop itself, and that's why regional more trade corporations are ahead of both countries, I think, both Afghanistan, Turkey, and Pakistan. How are you going to meet your energy needs, and how are you planning to improve trade ties, especially with the regional countries?
Well, in the 15 years ago, my late wife, Shaheed Mohtama Benazir Bhutto, came up with a power policy. It was unfortunately that policy was not adhered to after we left. The electricity we see that we have today, or the power that we have today, is the 5,000 megawatts that she managed to do in her 3 years of governance. But we've taken up the policy again. We've invited people to come. In fact, there's a company from Turkey which has just come up with a barge-mounted power plant which is going to be operational in a week's time. So the world has responded to our new policy. But as always, everything takes time. And in time, inshallah, we will be able to overcome this issue.
Okay. If we get back to Pakistan's war against terrorists and Taliban fighters, there have been lots of allegations about it, but because some of the U.S. officials said especially the war in Afghanistan, which is a different case than Pakistan, of course, but has been lost. How is the situation in Pakistan? Your army is fighting the terrorists, and what is the latest?
Well, as soon as we came into governance, and we, of course, we were personally hurt and hit by terrorism because we lost my wife, our great leader, Shaheed Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto, to the terrorist. And that's when the ownership of the war started. When I came to Islamabad and I said it is our war. Before democracy came into being, everybody thought that this was a war of some other country that we were fighting. But now there is ownership to the war. And as you know, that if you draw comparisons to any war in the world or any insurgency in the world, it's a slow process. It's not something that you can end overnight. But the gains that my army and my officers and the sacrifice that my soldiers and my police and the people of Pakistan and the ordinary people have given, that is a landmark in the history of Pakistan. And in 2 years, we've done more than most of it was done in 10 years.
The North Waziristan region is quite the hub of most of the terrorists, and lately a NATO strike killed 3 of Pakistani soldiers, and that rose a tension between you and Afghanistan. So how do you see the drone attacks, which usually sometimes maybe mistakenly can hit Pakistani civilians?
Yes, sir. The drone attack, our policy has been clear about it. The Prime Minister is on record that it is an infringement into our airspace, and we've asked for those drones. We've requested the Americans that we can do this job much better than you can do it, because we've been using even more aggressive means to fight the terrorist, but that the people of Pakistan do not disappreciate. But if a foreign drone comes in, obviously they have a reaction to it.
So are you planning, because the US is said to be pressuring the army to launch a joint operation into the border area, because where the Taliban fighters are mostly situated in, are you planning to hold a joint operation with NATO forces on the region, on the border?
This is a government policy, and the government has stated a policy through the parliament. It is called the 3D policy. There is deterrence, and there is development, and there is dialogue. So we've dialogued, we've used deterrence wherever we need, and it's a homegrown policy and a homegrown answer to this terrorism and this terrorist. It has nothing to do with the United States or other countries. Yes, of course, the area you're talking about, those mountains are very difficult. Those trenches in there, those areas were earlier prepared to hold the Soviet forces. And obviously that's a difficult terrain, and Pakistan needs much more support to be able to do an operation of that standard. But hopefully we are gathering support from the world, and the world is understanding, and we will find the support and eventually do this together.
So have you been able to root out your differences with Mr. Karzai, the Afghan president?
I have no differences with Mr. Karzai.
Especially in the fight against terrorism?
No, we always, it's a joint pain. And when something happens in Afghanistan, I hurt. When something happens in Pakistan, he hurts. And sometimes when you hurt, you react. So it's normal reactions. And we've very good bilateral relations with Afghanistan. The president and myself are good friends and brothers, and we are helping the situation as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. But how do you see, there's Afghanistan, it's your neighbor, and it says since the occupation, since the invasion, lots of terrorists have been infiltrating into your territories and carrying out terrorist attacks. How does it feel?
See, I feel sorry for the Afghan nation and my own nation, because we've been victims not for the last 10 years, but we've been victims for the last 35 years. Since the invasion of Afghanistan by the Soviet Union. And as all wars, they leave effects for decades to come. But unfortunately, the world does not take responsibility for the effects of war weapons which were created to take on a superpower, which are now, that transfer of technology has taken place, and non-state actors can manage to get nations to war.
If you could compare to me, aside from the Soviet invasion part, which Afghanistan was better, with Taliban or now with the US invasion?
I think before that, much before that, because I've been to that Afghanistan in the 60s, where King Ayşe was there, and it was a duty-free port. You could buy anything, and every weekend there used to be hundreds of people from Pakistan going to watch movies in Afghanistan. So it was a very viable, vibrant state. I think the world should realize that that was the Afghanistan that they destroyed with the international politics. And we need to build Afghanistan to that position.
And what do you think about Mr. President Obama's words? He said, I know that you do not like to be taken jointly up with Afghanistan in the fight against terrorism because you're in a different position. But President Obama said Pakistan is the core to solve this terrorism problem, especially on the border region. Do you agree?
No, I think Pakistan is definitely part of the solution, and Pakistan is being part of the solution. But Pakistan needs much more support than it's been getting, or it has got in the last 10 years, or even it got while the Soviet war was going on. If you look at the situation, it has to be looked in the historic perspective. And historically, we were the ones who who stopped the Soviet army, and today the affluent world that you see is there is our contribution to it. So I think the whole world should realize that and respond. And what am I asking for? I am not asking the world for aid. I'm asking the world for trade. So that is where we want support, so that we can build and grow ourselves to be able to be a strong nation to fight any sort of situation that arises, a challenge that arises to a nation.
He's warning me, but I have one more question. What do you think about the WikiLeaks US cables, which also had some allegations against Pakistan that the army is trying to launch a coup, etc.? Have you been able to take a look at the WikiLeaks?
We keep hearing rumors and reading reports, but I've been assured, in fact, my late friend Richard Holbrooke called me on the, I think it was a very personal call that he made to me, and that was the last time I spoke to him, to inform me that this is a leak which is a lot of information which comes in, which is definitely not intelligible intelligence, but just rumors or anybody who says anything that gets passed on, because a lot of information gets collected and then it is deciphered. So we are quite assured that these are just reports.
Very briefly, how can you qualify Turkey-Pakistan relations?
Turkey and Pakistan have a long relationship starting from before Pakistan was even made. So I can say that Pakistan and Turkey are two brotherly nations, and that's exactly what we're trying to impress upon the world and trying to improve it as much as you can, because even if you are a family, it's never enough of investment in relationship. So we are investing in our relationship to make it stronger and convert it into a relationship practically. What we feel for each other, there is no practical demonstration of this, or it's not enough, the practical demonstration that we have.
Mr. President, thank you for your time and for answering my questions.
Thank you, Madam.